what's happening around the world and what's happening here at home.
A very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1. For the News First team, I'm Mariam Ganavijaya.
And I'm Sandro Ferdinando. Let's take a look at your headlines for tonight.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
Concerns mount whether those who underwent eye surgery developed complications due to an issue with the medicine. Health Minister calls for action against those accountable for any issue with the medicine. State Minister of Media says an agreement was reached to remove 2 chapters from the proposed broadcasting bill. Anti-corruption bill delayed.
මේකේ හරි පුදුමවගන්තියක් තියෙනවා. දැන් තොරතුරු සපයා දෙන පුද්ගලයා අවසානයේ නඩුව අසාර්ථක වුණොත් අවුරුදු 10ක් හිරේ යනවා. අල්ලස් ගත්ත පුද්ගලයා අවුරුදු 7ක් විතරයි හිරේ යනවා. ඒක හරි පුදුම පරතරයක්.
4 shooting incidents in 24 hours. 3 people gunned down and 3 others injured. President meets Lanka Mobile chairman in London. Bruno Divakara granted bail. Pioneer in private television in Sri Lanka, TNL celebrates its 30th anniversary.
News First headlines. Main sponsor.
Durden's Hospital, dedicated to you.
On to your lead story this evening. Sri Lanka's Health Minister Kehelia Rambukwala has said allegations with regard to medicines will be investigated, and if any discrepancy is identified, action will be taken against those responsible.
The minister was responding to allegations that Indian manufactured drugs resulted in deaths and vision impairment in Sri Lanka.
P.A. Nandasena, a resident of Bindunuwava in Bandarawala, has lost vision in one eye. On the 4th of April 2023, he was admitted to the Norelia District Hospital in order to undergo a cataract surgery. 2 days later, he was discharged and sent home, and from the 6th of April, he started losing his vision until he completely lost vision in one eye.
I was told to get admitted on the 4th of April and the surgery was performed on the 5th of April, and on the 6th of April I was discharged. I started losing my vision. On the 22nd of April I admitted myself again. I was given treatment twice. I am a businessman and I cannot see at all.
මේ ගැන කිසිම කෙනෙක් රජයවත් බලන්නේ නැහැ. මං උත්තරත්වයේ තව ලෙඩු 20000ක් විතර ඉන්නවා. මේ සෑම දෙනාම ගැන හොයා බලලා කටයුතු කරන්න කියලා මමත් දැන් අන්දේ කිසිම කෙනෙකුට මේ වගේ දෙයක් නොවෙන්න වැඩ කටයුතු කරන්න කියලා මං ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා.
Prednisolone acetate. He was given prednisolone acetate and within days he experienced complications. We informed the doctor and he asked if we had not seen the news. Then we got to know that an Indian manufactured medicine was substandard and to report to the hospital immediately. We've informed the officials countless times about this. Please look into this issue.
සෞඛ්‍ය අමාත්‍යාංශයට 10 වාරයක් කතා කරලා තියෙනවා. අපේ ඇස්වලින් ගැන කඳුළු ගැන මේ දුක් ගැනවිල්ල බලන්න.
Tilak Jairatna from Bulletin is also facing the same issue. News First came into contact with Jairatna when he was in Colombo to obtain treatment.
I cannot see clearly. The light is yellow. The ministry conducted an investigation and I gave a statement on the 18th of June. There are those who will never recover. I am here in Colombo after obtaining a loan.
A spokesperson for the Norelia District Hospital told News First that 18 patients who administered the medicine had developed complications. The spokesperson said that these patients are being treated by the Kandy and Colombo General Hospitals and the vision levels differ at the moment. In recent days, News First reported on the deaths of 2 women who underwent cesarean and hernia surgeries at the Peradeniya Teaching Hospital. It was revealed that they developed complications when they were given the Indian manufactured anesthetic bupivacaine. Sri Lanka's Health Minister commented on these allegations while in Kandy.
The doctors in the respective fields and other in related fields will reveal the situation surrounding these allegations to the people. I did not bring the medicine. That question is wrong. The US FDA is one of the leading medicine regulators in the world. Even when they do tests, there may be shortcomings in 1 or 2 in a batch of 100 or 1,000. These are produced by machines, yet the components are created by the human mind. There can be some changes and there is no place free of that.
ඔබතුමා පූර්ණ නිගමනයකට යනවා විස වෙලා මිය ගියයි කියලා. නෑ හරියට ඉතින් දෙමව්පියෝ කියනවා නම් ඒ ගැන කවුද හොයන්න ඕනේ? නෑ මම පරීක්ෂණ කරන්නේ නෑ. පරීක්ෂණ කරන කණ්ඩායම් ඉන්නවා. මම අමතුමා හැටියට නියෝග කරලා තියෙනවා.
As the minister, I have ordered for an investigation to take place immediately and I have called for a report. If there is an issue, action will be taken against them.
සම්බන්ධව කටයුතු කරන ආකාරයට කටයුතු කරන්න. හරි. ඔව්. ඔතන කටහඬ වෙනස් වෙලා අයියේ. මම ඒකෙන් දැන් මම කිව්වනේ මම බෙහෙත් ගෙනල්ලා නැහැ. ඒක අමෝලික බොරුවක්. එච්චරයි. හරිද? සතුටුද? දැන් සතුටුද?
The National Medicines Regulatory Authority plays a leading role in protecting and improving public health, and they responded to the developments recently. The Indian manufactured anesthetic was imported to Sri Lanka via the emergency purchasing provisions, while the medication provided following the eye surgery was imported with the registration.
We cannot go for 100% quality. We have issues. When medicines are imported, random samples are taken for testing and quality inspection. We cannot do that in Sri Lanka because the cost is high and we do not have the laboratories. We do not have experts. Furthermore, we can stop this by conducting random tests.
What is the assurance that can be given to the public over the quality of available medicine when the regulatory body does not have a proper quality control mechanism?
It's been 30 years since a laboratory was provided to the NMRA. The NMRA wants to close down the laboratory. The CEO of the NMRA was always asking the staff about the need for such a laboratory. 50% of the equipment is out of order. That is why we want the health minister to make a visit. The quality control mechanism is done scientifically. No one can import and distribute medicines as they please.
The Society of Government Pharmacists also commented on the matter.
The pricing committee was disbanded and the former experts say that it was corrupt and that is why they resigned. People like Ananda Vijay Vikrama and Palita Bekon were removed from these committees. The nominations were also rejected by the board. That is how they have the control over the board. The professor of medicine and the professor of pharmaceutical are no longer in the entity that is supposed to regulate medicine. For the first time in history, those positions are empty.
The National Medicines Regulatory Authority plays a leading role in protecting and improving public health by ensuring medicinal products available in the country meet applicable standards of safety, quality and efficacy. However, when the NMRA is facing such a devastating situation, the Health Minister works tirelessly within the cabinet-appointed subcommittee that was appointed to draft laws on media regulation. When questions were continuously posed on medicines, the minister also commented on the need to regulate the media.
We report you decide
There are some who say we report you decide. I am not sure of them. But when we report to decide, a person with no awareness only asks about that. They say that they will report and leave it to you to decide. They cannot decide because the health sector will decide. There is an issue over the concept and we all are not perfect. Yes, there needs to be a certain degree of accountability of the truth and the lie. While freedom will add to the burden on the people, Attention needs to be given to those areas.
ජනතාවට ඇති වෙන පීඩනය පෙලක් වෙලාට ඔවුන්ගේ පවුල් වලට ඇති වෙන පීඩනය සම්බන්ධව අවධානය යොමු වෙනවා.
When the minister was involved in the subcommittee to draft laws on media regulation, do you recall the response given by the NMRA on deciding the lives of the people?
There is the problem of Amal Bisu. You cannot find a single house in which no death has taken place. Even a registered medicine has expired. Another unregistered medicine has also expired. Things like that happen. It cannot be stopped.
When the responsibility of creating the drug regulatory authority of our country, which comments so lightly on people's lives, is in his hands, the health minister is trying to silence the media. Minister, get the National Medicines Regulatory Authority back on track. Teach them how to give a scientific reply to the public as a responsible institution. We must remind you that this is a matter for which people have to pay with their lives. In order to cover up corruption, fraud, theft and thuggery, and to stop the general public from talking about it and getting to know about it, the media can be silenced. In the past, people came to know about the investigations done by large-scale fraud and corruption investigation agencies and the cases heard before the courts thanks to the media. You can silence the media to cover up all of this. But before that, shouldn't you create a proper mechanism to properly regulate medicines that save lives? The opposition leader also questioned about the Broadcasting Regulatory Commission in the Parliament on Wednesday.
A document has been produced saying it is up for discussion. Some view it as a drafted bill. I would like to raise the question, if the government is expecting to regulate the publishing and broadcasting media through this document, is the government trying to tame the journalists and the media institutions? Journalists are not the slaves of the government. Similarly, when they tried to adopt a Media Regulatory Act in 1997, Justice A.R.B. Amar Singh of the Supreme Court issued an order stating that this bill is in violation on the fundamental rights embodied in the Constitution. Even though it is still a proposed bill, when we go through the proposed bill and compare it with the fruitful judgment given by Justice Amar Singh, it is evident that even this bill will violate the fundamental rights ensured on the people through the Constitution. Even now, we know that several officials, including the President, is trying to use the power vested on them to issue licenses to warn several media organizations. This license is only issued for an year and it needs to be renewed annually. Therefore, we kindly request the government to not to use this trump to suppress the free media of the country.
We know
that our president has an issue with the Sirasa Media Network. Supreme Court Justice Amar Singh's judgment was cited in Parliament today. I would like to add to this that it was not only Justice Amar Singh, but this judgment was delivered by a 3-judge bench where even the Chief Justice of the country was a part of. This judgment stated that if this bill is to be enacted, it needs to be passed by a 2/3 majority in Parliament and a referendum. Bring this draft into an open discussion. We can also contribute to it then. This is nothing but an attempt to control media organizations and journalists of the country. There can be doubts on this proposed bill and it is reasonable to have them. This draft bill does not have any content as of now. We have not included any law that violates the constitution of the country. Then you requested to open this draft bill for discussion. We have already invited the broadcasters to tender us more details on these aspects. Therefore, as a member of this committee, I would like to tell that we have opened this for discussion and we have allowed them to present their inputs both orally and in writing. A proposal for self-censorship ethics regulation was never drafted by our ministry, and there is nothing to stop the journalists from drafting such proposal. Nor the President or the Prime Minister or even the government have any reasons to suppress the media. I state this with complete responsibility. Even now, the subject minister can cancel any license issued on a media organization. Yes, they can go to courts on this cancellation, but even now, the subject minister can cancel this license under the current law in hand. But once we pass this broadcasting regulatory bill, the minister will no longer have those extraordinary powers to cancel a media license. This bill will introduce a system to follow for such cancellations. Therefore, this bill was brought with the intention of strengthening the media industry in the country and to ensure that the right of expression is upheld and also to make sure that the people get hold of the correct information. Even now, any parliamentarian can present his proposals to this bill. This is still in the drafting stage. We have not even named it as a bill yet. And the ministerial subcommittee has already agreed to amend 2 sections in this proposed draft.
ඡේද දෙකක් සංශෝධනය කරන්න අමාත්‍ය අනුකමිටුව එකඟතාවයක් පළ කරලා තියෙනවා. ඔබතුමා කියනවා
Now you told that this is open for discussion. At the same time, you are telling that it will be done after establishing the Broadcasting Regulatory Commission. Does this mean that you have already handpicked the people who are going to sit in this Broadcasting Regulatory Commission, even though the bill is still in the drafting stage?
විකාශන අධිකාරියක් එනවා කියන කාරණාව.
Civil organizations and trade unions expressed their opinions regarding the attempts made to regulate media.
What we see in the attempts made by the government to bring this act into force is that this is a mere attempt to violate the freedom of expression of the people. The information will be sensitive to the public through the media. Therefore, people will be informed about the current situation of the country and international affairs involving the country through the media. As civil activists, we are of the stance that this proposed Broadcasting Regulatory Commission Act infringes on human rights.
මිනිස් අයිතිවාසිකම් උල්ලංඝනය කිරීමක් හැටියට තමයි අපි සිවිල් ක්‍රියාකාරීකම් හැටියට දකින්නේ.
The Trade Union Federation of the University of Peradeniya also commented on this.
They are trying to bring this act into force with the expectation of bringing in the media that is in favor and to broadcast what they want. The people will know the fraudulent acts of the government only through the media. They are trying to suppress that by bringing in the Broadcasting Regulatory Commission Act. The privatization, which is to be brought in through the IMF proposal, is a plan for the sale of state property. That plan is condemned by many trade unions. They are trying to suppress such acts through bringing this act to regulate media.
ඒවා මර්ධනය කිරීමේ අරමුණු කොටගෙන තමයි මේ පනත හරහා මේ මාධ්‍ය මර්ධනය කිරීමට බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe had met with the founder and chairman of Lanka Mobile, Subhaskaran Aliraja, and Group Deputy Chairman at Lanka Mobile, Prem Sivasamy, during his visit to the UK.
The Veerakesari newspaper report said that Subhaskaran Aliraja had reportedly told the president in London that political prisoners should be freed and via such action reconciliation can be encouraged. The Veerakesari newspaper further reported the president as saying that the issue regarding political prisoners was being handled and that it would soon be possible to create a positive atmosphere in this regard as well. It added that the president had noted that members of the diaspora should step forward to invest in Sri Lanka and that the government is prepared to provide the necessary facilities. The president had reportedly noted that the necessary legal amendments will also be introduced.
Chair of the Uttara Lanka Sabhaga Vimal Veeravansa, speaking during the weekend, revealed an attempt to hand over the control of Sri Lanka Telecom to businessman Subhaskaran Aliraja.
There are rumors that they are going to hand over telecom to Subhaskaran Aliraja. As of now, we have done all that is needed to be done to introduce the latest 5G technology to telecom. This will be a fortune to the person who buys this. They are going to hand this over to a person who already owns a media network, and it is being sold at a time where they have already done all the hard work to adopt the latest 5G technology. Top of everything, they are selling this at a time where this entity is earning profits. This will be a fortune to the buyer, and through this he will be able to broaden his media network. Not only that, this deal will earn him an opportunity to manipulate the political arm of the country. Therefore, in conclusion, we need to understand that the Wickremesinghe model is not a model to solve our issues, but a model to create more issues.
වික්‍රමසිංහ මොඩලය 50 අර්බුදය නිර්මාණය කරපු මොඩලයක් නිසා අර්බුදය විසඳන්න පුළුවන් මොඩලයක් නෙවෙයි.
News First made attempts to contact the chairman of Lanka Mobile, Subhaskaran Aliraja, to inquire over the matter. However, the officer we were able to contact said that Subhaskaran Aliraja was not available. News First continued its attempts to contact Subhaskaran Aliraja.
SLPP parliamentarian Nama Rajapaksa said that the president must inform the parliament and the public of the SOE restructuring process.
We request the President to inform the Parliament and the public on the process, especially with regard to the entities that would be subject to restructuring and the reasons for doing so. Why is a profit-making institution being restructured? If it is a loss-making institution, what programs will be adopted? Is restructuring taking place to increase the efficiency of the entities? The Parliament and the public needs to be made aware. Furthermore, the conditions need to be made public and the selection process needs to be transparent. What about the rights of the workers? The Parliament, the public and the workers need to know the details.
The ruling party on Wednesday decided to postpone the passage of the anti-corruption bill. The draft was debated in Parliament and the Leader of the House, Minister Susil Premajayantha, informed Parliament that as the drafts have to be amended further, a decision will be taken at the party leaders' meeting on Thursday on the date of the vote.
News first with the people.
The UN Human Rights Office urged Sri Lanka to use present opportunities for democratic renewal, deeper institutional reforms and advance accountability and reconciliation.
Now the call was made when UN Deputy High Commissioner for Human Rights Nada al-Nashif delivered her oral statement on Sri Lanka in Geneva on Wednesday.
The economic crisis continues to have a severe impact on the rights and well-being of many Sri Lankans. Discussions with creditors are underway, and although this year the International Monetary Fund approved a financial support package, which is an important first step, it is crucial to ensure that the burden of potential reforms does not further compound inequalities. Robust safety nets and social protection measures are needed to shelter the most vulnerable from the negative spillovers of economic restructuring. It is also vital to address the underlying factors of the crisis, including corruption, which was allowed an essential demand of the protests that took place last year. Our office urges the government and political parties in Sri Lanka to use this opportunity for democratic renewal, for deeper institutional reforms, and to advance accountability and reconciliation, as well as the promotion and the protection of human rights. Sri Lanka has witnessed too many ad hoc commissions in the past that failed to ensure accountability. Accountability remains the fundamental gap in attempts to deal with the past, and as long as impunity prevails, Sri Lanka will achieve neither genuine reconciliation nor sustainable peace. The past months have unfortunately witnessed an old reflex of using draconian laws to curtail opposition and control civic space, with a heavy-handed approach to protests far too often, including the arrest of protest leaders and forceful crowd control measures, as well as the persistent use of the military in police functions. Recent arrests over statements made during comedy performances and of members of parliament engaged in protests exemplify this concern.
Sri Lanka responded to the comments made in the oral update.
Political stability has been restored while conditions on the ground have improved considerably for the people. Sri Lanka has categorically rejected the external evidence gathering mechanism established following resolutions 46/1 and 51/1, which will have wide-ranging legal and political implications. Notwithstanding its position and despite the severe constraints, Sri Lanka actively and constructively engaged with the regular human rights mechanisms. Let me conclude by reiterating Sri Lanka's continued cooperation and constructive engagement with this Council in keeping with our Constitution and our international obligations.
The core group statement on Sri Lanka was delivered at the 53rd General Meeting of the United Nations Human Rights Council.
Britain's Global Ambassador for Human Rights and Deputy Permanent Representative to the United Nations in Geneva, Rita French, delivered the core group statement on Sri Lanka at the 53rd General Meeting of the United Nations Human Rights Council. She said that they welcome Sri Lanka's initial steps towards addressing concerns around land returns, long-term detentions and corruption, adding that these steps can provide a basis to begin the process to protect the rights of all Sri Lankans from all ethnic and religious communities. She further noted that they remain concerned by the continued use of the Prevention of of Terrorism Act and that they acknowledge an ongoing effort to replace the PTA and urge the government to ensure that terrorism legislation is consistent with Sri Lanka's international obligations. The core group statement further called on Sri Lanka to work with the High Commissioner and his office and remain ready to support Sri Lanka in addressing HRC Resolution 51-1.
The High Commissioner for Human Rights has very specifically mentioned Sri Lanka hasn't taken enough measures with regard to accountability. But implementation of the laws is what has been the problem and continues to be a problem. And I say continues to be a problem because it's an irony. It is this government that is bringing these laws now. By pressure from IMF, from various other international actors, you are enacting laws. Just to satisfy the IMF, passing laws is not going to combat corruption in this country. There is no politician who has been convicted and sentenced in this country for corruption. I mean, only a year ago, the constant chorus that we heard in this country is Kaputu Kaka. Kaputu Kaka. Why Kaputu Kaka? Big crow that steals. This government is still controlled by that Kaputu Kaka. Ones who stole from this country are still in charge.
Everything that is done in this house and outside is merely a box-ticking exercise to try and demonstrate to the world in some way that we merely qualify for democracy. The High Commissioner in his general address to the Commission has referred to Sri Lanka specifically and has noted that there has been no forward movement at all on questions of accountability. The previous High Commissioner, 2 High Commissions back, Prince Zaid, made the observation that Sri Lanka as a country cannot be trusted and cannot be entrusted with the duty of carrying out a meaningful and an impartial inquiry into crimes that had been committed during the war.
In news-making headlines this evening, 3 people were gunned down within 24 hours in separate areas of Sri Lanka.
3 people were gunned down in Kottawa, Koskura and Homagama within 24 hours. One murder took place at approximately 8 a.m. on Wednesday inside a private medical laboratory close to Dharmapala Vidyalaya in Kottawa. Two unidentified gunmen who arrived on a motorcycle carried out the shooting, and their target was a person who visited the medical laboratory to take away samples. The deceased was identified as Mihiran Prabhat, a 33-year-old resident of Namal Uyana in Mattegoda. The police suspects that this shooting may have been carried out as an act of revenge for a recent shooting.
Crime Watch.
An individual was shot dead in Hiddaruwa in Koskura, Elpitia. Police spokesperson SSP Nihal Taldua said that 2 motorcycle gunmen had visited a residence between 5 and 6 on Wednesday morning and carried out the shooting. The deceased was identified as a 52-year-old Vijita Mahendra, who was a tourist guide and father of 2. The motive for the murder remains unclear.
Crime Watch.
Another person was shot dead in Niedagala in Homagama. The police said that the man was shot by an unknown group of people who arrived in a van at around 8:30 p.m. on Tuesday. The police spokesperson said that a T-56 assault rifle was used to carry out the shooting. The deceased was identified as Chamila Pereira, a 46-year-old resident of Niendagala. Police spokesperson SSP Nihal Taldua said that it is suspected that the murder may have been committed due to a dispute related to drug trafficking.
Crime Watch.
3 people were injured in a shooting in Valasmulla in Matara. Police said that a dispute over a water pipe had escalated and resulted in the shooting. Police said that a shotgun was used to carry out the shooting.
The number of shootings reported by News First from the 15th of May 2023 to this date alone is 11. 5 lives were lost in these shootings. More than 6 were injured. The man responsible for the attempted murder of a deputy school principal in Ambalangada and murderers in Minuangada was arrested by the police special task force. In addition, a woman who aided and abetted in the crimes was also arrested.
A 49-year-old man identified as Sriyanta Saman Kumara alias Mama was arrested for attempted murder, aiding and abetting, weapons possession, heroin trafficking and heroin possession. Local authorities said that the suspect is a close associate of Nuresh Sukmundaya Ratna, also known as Hinetiya Mahesh, a wanted criminal and drug trafficker who is currently in Dubai. He was arrested with a pistol, a bullet, 15 grams of heroin, 60,000 rupees in cash and 2 mobile phones. In addition, a 72-year-old woman was arrested for aiding and abetting in attempted murder. The police special task force said the suspects were handed over to the Colombo Crimes Division for further investigations.
Social media activist Bruno Divakara, who was arrested in connection to Natasha Edis Surya's performance, was granted bail by the 4th Magistrates Court. Natasha Edis Surya, who was arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department for allegedly making defamatory comments, was further remanded until the 5th of July.
The International Day of Yoga 2023 was marked next to a Kalvari-class submarine of the Indian Navy in Colombo.
The International Day of Yoga 2023 was held at the port of Colombo on Wednesday, right next to the Indian naval submarine Bagir, which is the latest indigenous Kalvari-class submarine of the Indian Navy. The event was organized by the High Commission of India in line with the Global Ocean Ring as a unique initiative marking the International Day of Yoga 2023. The event was attended by Indian High Commissioner Gopal Bagle and Defence Secretary General Kamal Gunaratne and many other high-ranking officials.
The visit of the submarine today also stresses not just our shared heritage and efforts to highlight the importance of health and wellness, but also the very, very strong and close defense cooperation that exists between India and Sri Lanka. INS Vagir itself is among the latest entrants to the mighty Indian Navy, and I am very happy that in the first few months of his commission and service with the Indian Navy, it has come with the message of goodwill and friendship to the shores of Sri Lanka.
During the visit of the Indian naval submarine Vagir as part of the Ocean Ring of Yoga, we are not only celebrating the power of yoga, but also fostering bilateral cooperation and unity among India and Sri Lanka. The initiative, Ocean Ring of Yoga, symbolizes the power of collaboration and cultural exchange, connecting nations through the transformative practice of yoga. It is through such initiatives that we strengthen the bond between our countries and reinforce our commitment to peace, harmony and well-being.
INS Bagir is the latest indigenous Kalvari-class submarine of the Indian Navy, and the purpose of the operational visit of this submarine at the Colombo port is to commemorate the 9th edition of the International Day of Yoga.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka says that treasury bill auctions are conducted according to a transparent and well-established procedure.
In response to recent media reports, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka said that the procedure with regard to treasury bill auctions is independent of the monetary policy decision-making process. It said that any postponement of raising funds for the government in anticipation of any change in policy interest rates is not feasible given the large cash flow requirement of the government and its commitment to phasing out monetary financing by the central bank. The statement noted that the banking system is also not in a position at present to provide significant additional advances to the government due to liquidity constraints and risk management considerations arising from current exposure levels.
The LOLC Divi Savya program that aims to support the education of Sri Lankan students continued in the Hatton Education Zone in the Nuwara district.
The LOLC Divi Savya program gifts school books and stationery equipment to the most impoverished students in the country, ensuring a brighter future for them. This worthy initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education. School books and stationery items were distributed among school students centering the Hatton Education Zone in the Nuwara district today. School books and stationery items were distributed among students of the Hatton Rockville Tamil Vidyalaya, Ginigathena Homagama Vidyalaya and Minuwandeniya Sinhala Vidyalaya. The Divi Savya program also distributed school books and stationery items among students of Ginigathena Kenilworth Tamil Vidyalaya and Hatton Blackwater Tamil Vidyalaya. The LOLC Divi Savya program will continue to ensure a better future for all school children in Sri Lanka.
TNL, the pioneer of private television in Sri Lanka, celebrates its proud 30th anniversary on Wednesday.
Mr. Sean Wickramasinghe, who was a pioneer in giving the people of Sri Lanka the experience of audio-visual electronic media for the first time, started the first private television channel in Sri Lanka after the independent television channel he created was suddenly taken over by the government. He brought to life the new television channel, TNL, by combining his technical knowledge and innate management skills. This is how he once reflected on his efforts.
On the 13th of April, during the inauspicious time, the Theru from the Gangarama was chanting Pirit. Smoke arose from the table that held the mixer. I went all over in December for the license. The SLRC Act was not in existence at that time, and it was only the SLBC Act that was available. Various alternates were provided. No one helps when you start something in Sri Lanka. They always obstruct it. There were obstructions. Mr. Amanugama said a gazette needs to be issued. He was an parliamentarian and said that 100,000 rupees needs to be paid. Anil Vijayawardena placed 50,000 and I borrowed 50,000 from my mother and gave 100,000 to the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
TNL managed to bring many new experiences closer to the people of Sri Lanka by fulfilling the social responsibility of an audio-visual electronic media. TNL created the first live private television newscast as well as the first political talk show on a private television. TNL also managed to bring political comedy closer to television. TNL Television, which was always dedicated to the national mission rather than commercial values, was commended both at home and overseas. TNL celebrated its 30th anniversary by giving priority to religious events. The MTV MBC Media Network extends its best wishes to TNL for taking a stand for the country, its people, and for the people's right to information.
According to an internal US government memo on the search, sonar picked up banging sounds on Tuesday from underneath the water in the North Atlantic Ocean while searching for a submersible with 5 people on board that went missing 2 days earlier on a dive to the Titanic wreckage.
Now, the crew searching for the Titan submersible had also heard banging sounds every 30 minutes and 4 hours later on Tuesday.
In a race against time, the United States Coast Guard has revealed a chilling development in the search for the fabled submarine that went in search of the Titanic wreckage. Startling reports confirm that a Canadian aircraft has detected haunting underwater noises within the designated search area, potentially hinting at a catastrophic turn of events. These sounds have been described as banging sounds in internal memos, further fueling concerns over the safety of the missing submersible. The ill-fated miniature sub, carrying a crew of 5 individuals, vanished from radar screens on Sunday during its perilous descent into the unfathomable depths where the Titanic rests. However, with each passing moment, the urgency intensifies as the sub's air supply is rapidly dwindling. Experts fear that this precious lifeline will be exhausted by Thursday at around 3:30 p.m. Sri Lankan time, sending shivers down the spines of all those involved in this daring rescue operation. The Ocean Gate expedition carries a staggering price tag of $250,000 per person, departing from St. John's in Newfoundland, Canada, spanning hundreds of kilometers to reach the solemn resting place of the Titanic wreckage.
In your cricket news update, Oman won their game against the United Arab Emirates at the ICC Cricket World Cup Qualifier 2023 by 5 wickets in Bulawayo.
Meanwhile, Scotland won their game against Ireland in a thrilling encounter that went down to the wire at the ICC Cricket World Cup Qualifier in Bulawayo.
Batting first, the United Arab Emirates posted 227 runs for the loss of 8 wickets in their 50 overs. Ayan Khan top scored with 58 runs, while B. Aravind missed out on a half-century, dismissed for 49. Chasing 228 to win, Oman reached the target in just 46 overs, losing only 5 wickets. Aqib Ilyas top scored with 53, while Shoaib Khan and Mohammad Nadeem contributed with half-centuries. Batting first, Ireland posted 286 runs for the loss of 8 wickets, thanks to a century by Curtis Campher and a 69 by George Dockrell. Chasing 287 runs to win, Scotland lost 9 wickets to reach the target. Michael Leask was unbeaten on 89, while Christopher McBride smashed 56.
And with that, wrap up Primetime 9s for tonight.
Do stay with News First as Face the Nation is coming up next. Good night and take care.